There will be no imminent arrest of Delhi Chief Minister Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, but a fourth summon from the Enforcement Directorate is likely to him. The ED also is parallelly building a strong case to take it before the court that the investigation is being impeded by the avoidance of repeated summons by Mr. Arvind Kejriwal and seek the court's directions on how it should proceed ahead. But does the AAP want a political spectacle of an arrest? This is the big question, as today we saw the Aam Aadmi Party say that the Enforcement Directorate was planning to arrest Mr. Arvind Kejriwal. Nothing of that sort has happened. But that did not stop from Mr. Arvind Kejriwal himself hold a press conference and question the timings of the Enforcement Directorate summons to him, and even saying that the ED wants to arrest him to impede the Lok Sabha campaign of the Aam Aadmi Party. What the ED sources tell us that there could be no imminent arrest of Mr. Kejriwal by the Enforcement Directorate, but further legal actions could follow, including the agency being in the process of issuing him a fourth summon. The AAP, however, seems to be wishing for a political spectacle if the ED moves to arrest Mr. Kejriwal, as it could become a rallying point for it in the upcoming elections. In fact, both Mr. Kejriwal and the Jharkhand Chief Minister, Mr. Hemant Soren, have been avoiding ED summons, even as the agency sources say that there is incriminating evidence against them. In fact, ED's senior officers feel that the Aam Aadmi Party chief is trying to delay the trial and the investigation process by creating a political atmosphere, which Mr. Kejriwal may think help him ahead of the elections. ED could now move the court also for directions after making a strong case of the investigation being impeded by the avoidance of summons by both the chief ministers. Sources in the opposition camp, however, say that it is part of a political strategy by both Mr. Kejriwal and Mr. Hemant Soren to repeatedly avoid the ED's summons for appearance, as it fuels the narrative that ED is acting as a political agency to target their top leaders. In the words of an opposition source, if the ED wants to act against Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, it might as well drag him from his house for an arrest, as this will show the political vindictiveness of the government and its handmaiden agency, the Enforcement Directorate. That is what the opposition camp feels. The AAP is clear that Mr. Arvind Kejriwal will not appear before the Enforcement Directorate. Evidence, meanwhile, is also piling up against Mr. Hemant Soren. The raids in the office and the residential premises of close associates of Mr. Hemant Soren, which include a senior IS officer who is said to be close to the CM, have fetched ED more incriminating evidence against Mr. Hemant Soren, sources in the ED are telling us. Following the raids in the office and the residential premises of the Deputy Commissioner of Sahibganj, ED claims to have seized nearly 14 rounds of cartridges of banned weapons, a packet of rupees 8 lakhs hidden inside a government fine, and a laptop with incriminating evidences relating to the various dubious land deals in Jharkhand. This evidence was seized from the IS officer's office in Sahibganj by the ED recently. In his latest letter to the ED by Mr. Hemant Soren, after he's avoided 7 consecutive summons, the letter is being studied by the ED's legal team, but the 3-page letter dated January 2 calls the summons by the ED as bad in law, accuses ED of acting in a motivated and extraneous way, and ED is now mulling the next legal option against the Jharkhand CM, which may surprise him, a source in the ED told my colleague Madhuparna Das, who covers the agency very closely. But is Mr. Kejriwal and Mr. Hemant Soren now waiting to be opposition's heroes? AAP leaders have been daring the ED to act against Mr. Kejriwal, and all its top leaders on Wednesday night put out statements on Twitter that the ED was going to arrest Mr. Kejriwal on Thursday morning from his residence. The AAP has also gone public with such an apprehension earlier, but Mr. Kejriwal was not acted against. The CM himself did a press conference on Thursday questioning the timing of the ED summons. According to ED's officers, the ED has enough evidence to establish the necessity to examine Mr. Kejriwal, and ED feels it can be established even in a court of law. ED claims that the statements given by the arrested accused members of Kejriwal's party and others indicate the Delhi CM's complicity in the scam, and that is why the questioning of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal is required. One may remember that ED had earlier arrested Shiv Sena leader Sanjay Raut after he skipped the ED summons in a probe. But ED has not adopted that strategy later in the case of Soren and Kejriwal, who have skipped 7 and 3 summons respectively from the Enforcement Directorate.